Hello and welcome to another episode of Pakistonomy. Today I have with me once again Ariba Shahid. She's a business journalist based in Karachi. Views expressed on this podcast are our own. And we figured
Yeah,
we have her on again because last time she was on, we were talking about unlocking the economy. And now we're going to talk about what's going on in Pakistan because all of a sudden
आपने
we
नज़र
went from
लगा दी.
बिल्कुल लगता है कि जिंक्स कर दिया है और
We should have
अरीबा
knocked
wants
wood.
well, welcome to the show once again,
Thank you.
and let's start with what is going on. पहले तो बताएं
फैन्स
कि
के
आपने
फैन्स की पुरज़ोर फरमाइश पे मैं दोबारा आई हूँ.
बिल्कुल there's bands लगा दिए हैं गाला बिस्किट आप खा रही हैं आजकल के नहीं
यार वैसे मुझे गाला बिस्किट शुरू से पसंद नहीं है.
okay
लेकिन
me
if
neither
they come after super biscuit, I'm gonna hit the road.
yeah I don't think Super is going to make an ad um anywhere close to what
नहीं, लेकिन okay, I don't understand one thing. Tarang has been doing this for a while. Um, what's up with that? Tarang भी तो करता है, and Coca-Cola has शादी themed um ads. Like, what's wrong with the notion of dancing to sell a product is completely different. Advertising needs to develop itself. That's completely different. But the fact is that मुझे उस ad में कोई बेहयाई नजर नहीं है.
So what do you think is causing this? Let's start with that, right? Like what is the behind this sudden uptick in moral policing, let's call it that, in the
I
Pakistan, but primarily driven by PTA and PEMRA? Like where is this coming? What are you hearing about where is this coming from?
it okay. So it's kind of weird. So the censorship starts in a few things at first. First, it's gonna start with don't talk about this, don't talk about that. हमने बर्दाश्त किया. ठीक है, we agreed. We're like, okay, we're not supposed to take these names on TV. We're not allowed to do this. We agreed. We complied. We moved on. Now they're coming after culture and aspects. Like if Mehwish Hayat is dancing and she's dressed up as Punjabi Sindhi Balochi, I don't see the harm in that. Um, again, the ad is stupid, irrelevant, but I don't see the reason why it needs to be banned. The whole reason why the ban culture is prevalent in Pakistan is because the people that are in power that can make decisions feel that it is their right to do stuff like this. So, a position of power, ko, what do you call it? They're trying to, use it to the max, regardless of whether it's needed or not. जहाँ तक रही बात Gala biscuit ki. So they're coming after Gala biscuit now. Next will be, I guess, Uphone के ads. फिर next किसी दिन पाकिस्तानोमी को ban कर देंगे भाई आप क्यों पाकिस्तान की इकोनॉमी बात कर रहे हो.
YouTube might be next, but I mean, like, look, it's I agree with you that it's a power dynamic and some things at play, but like TikTok doesn't have it's I describe so the way I describe to people like these social media platforms is that Facebook is where you go to have arguments with people you know. Twitter is where you have arguments with less characters with people you often don't know.
Yeah.
Instagram is where you get FOMO, and TikTok is where you go to be happy. Like it is
No,
overall a
it's
very
it's
happy
different.
place.
You go to Facebook to see who's getting married and who's having kids. ठीक है. You go to Instagram to see where your friends are out vacationing. ठीक है, and yeah, FOMO. You go to Twitter to fight with people you don't know and get death threats often. And then you go to TikTok to laugh at innocent Pakistanis living their lives. These okay, so think I like to think about it this way. Zara, you and I are a niche in Pakistan. All right, I'm not saying this to flaunt it. I know for a fact that you and I are a niche. हम जो बैठ के अंग्रेजी में बात करें हमें जूम चलाना आता है हमें ये करना आता है हम एक नीच है ठीक है um, ये टिकटॉक वाले जो crowd है it's mostly what TikTok is basically a true representation of Pakistan. Those are the real people. We're a niche. Because हम भी एक we're making a fancy TikTok right now. This whole video thing, it's a fancy TikTok. We're making content for people. So what's wrong with their content? What is wrong with the fact that Jannat Mirza makes videos over stupid dialogues, or that Mullah Maulvi guy makes videos with Dolly Pakistan? I did some research. And what about those that guy जो Shahid Khan अपने आप को Prime Minister of Pakistan TikTok बनाया हुआ है? Let them be whatever they want to be. We हम elitist होके उसको cringe कह सकते हैं, हम उसको cheap कह सकते हैं. That's completely separate. Say we cannot like their content. That's completely separate. But at least let them live it.
Yeah,
And a
they have
lot
the
of
right to
people,
express themselves.
I read about how Jannat Mirza, who got 10 million. She's the first Pakistani to get 10 million followers on TikTok, and she got modeling offers and she is now making a movie or a TV drama based on that. So a person that had no chance of actually getting somewhere is using her platform to do that. A lot of people, cooks, chefs, artists, they're all using the platform. I have a friend in the US. She makes flowers for a living, fake flowers, and she's selling them on TikTok. So the platform has evolved. It's turned into a product placement platform. It's turned into that. अब same चीजें तो हर जगह है. अब जो Prime Minister Imran Khan Twitter पे, I think he has the largest Twitter following in Pakistan. I'm not sure.
I think
So
so.
हमारे
Yeah,
जो
I'm not sure.
Prime Minister हैं जो TikTok पे हैं, have you not seen you know unfamily like things on Twitter? I've seen them on a regular
Well, I,
basis.
I would argue the most sort of dangerous, if you want to use that terminology about
Mhm.
indecent obscenity or erosion of moral values, is WhatsApp. Why? Because
Yeah,
if you go on WhatsApp, it's end-to-end encrypted, sex clips get leaked on it, child pornography videos often are circulated on it. There's all sorts of other content that, because it's end-to-end encrypted, you can't monitor, you can't even complain to anyone about that stuff
let's
or
let's
have
let's talk
any sort
about
of voice around it.
let's talk about a very basic fact. जितना मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन व्हाट्सएप पे स्प्रेड होता है उतना किसी प्लेटफॉर्म पे स्प्रेड नहीं होता इनफैक्ट फेसबुक now has this option where if you spread fake news it shows that this news is fake. All right, that is something that WhatsApp doesn't have. So what's next? Are we going to ban WhatsApp? And if you think about this strategically in terms of business, like I'm going to think about this in terms of business. आप सुबह Facebook के CEO से बात करो और आप शाम में आपके मुल्क में TikTok बैन हो, ठीक है, एक हफ्ते पहले
And there's about to be
आप
a tech startup conference, right? Tech
और आप
disrupt is
नहीं और
happening.
सबसे मजे की बात ये आई रिमेम्बर बैक इन February I guess or January Imran Khan met social media influencers including TikTokers and then later on जब COVID हुआ तो you're talking to them so एक तरफ you're giving them confidence that the government believes in you and your potential and दूसरी तरफ जो है आप उनको बोलो कि oh I'm taking your platform away. You can't really do that. And if you want to have a digital Pakistan, I know digital Pakistan means digital payments and e-learning, things like that. But you can't have a digital Pakistan where you ban apps. All right, I understand whether you ban a few apps that are indecent. I understand. I don't understand, but I can understand the rationale for the government blocking, adult sites in the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Okay, fine, but you have gone beyond that. You have gone beyond that to the extent that you don't know where this is going to end. Um, so within the past 2 weeks, I can name a few things that have been banned. So we started off with the Gala biscuit ad. We moved on to Churels for no reason. क्योंकि आपका तो Churel के ऊपर jurisdiction भी नहीं है. And then moving on, you go on to TikTok. What's next?
Yeah,
And
and they started
more
with
importantly,
PUBG.
more
Started
importantly,
with
no,
go back. They started
no,
with
no, no.
PUBG.
More importantly, you banned the TV channels to talk about the motorway incident.
Yes.
So what else is going to happen? Like if you talk about the motorway incident, तो इस तरह से तो काफी साल पहले जब हमारे मुल्क में टेररिज्म होता था और हर दूसरे दिन एक बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट होता था तो उसको क्यों नहीं बैन किया? That was
Yeah.
also a crime.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, on your digital Pakistan point, because we try to focus mostly on the economy. I think this is an important topic to discuss because it is directly
Would
linked
you
to the
as a
economy.
let's think about it this way. If you were Facebook, would you want to invest in Pakistan? Considering
That
you own Facebook, you own Instagram, WhatsApp, would you want
forget
to invest
about
more?
Facebook, right? Like, look, one of the things, I sit here in DC, every time a Pakistani government official comes to visit, whether it's the prime minister or the finance minister or the commerce minister or whoever else, the foreign minister, one of their key talking points is that we want to bring PayPal into Pakistan. Correct?
कब से?
Now, if you are PayPal, if you are any next gen company, if you are Facebook, your Google, your YouTube, you will look at this discretionary behavior and a broad application of the law and say that this is a jurisdiction that is legally risky for us. And we will continue operations as they are and try to stay afloat here. But we will not invest and grow in this market for two primary reasons. One is this discretionary use of the law and this
Yeah.
draconian moral policing that's going on. But two, that growing in this market, which does not make you so much revenue, it's not a strategic market, you're not going to make tons of money on
No, you're
this,
not. Yeah.
is only going to grow your cost, because your compliance cost will be automatically higher than the revenues and the profits you're generating out of this market. So why would you want to invest in, right?
Of
And it
course.
completely undermines digital Pakistan and the initiatives that they have. And I will
Okay.
put another important
Yeah.
part, like one last part, is that if you want a knowledge economy and a creative economy, creative people will by their very nature be those that break rules, that try to experiment with things, and they make the
Exactly.
status quo uncomfortable. You cannot say we want a creative economy that has innovation in it while policing people and what they can and cannot do. It just cannot, it just does not work that way.
I just feel that it started off with uh, what do you call Atif Mia, and we bowed down to the moral brigade us waqt, and since then that's all we've been doing
Yeah. And it's a
every
sorry
step.
state of affairs.
It's a very, people say that there's an establishment. I feel that in addition to the establishment, our religious clergy also have a huge play into what happens in our country and what does not happen in our country. So if you move that aside, we now if you look about a few days ago, the Shia Sunni protests that were happening, the Sunnis protesting against the Shias, we had prominent people coming out, especially during a time when the motorway incident happened, who were quiet about the motorway, but they were very abrupt about the Shia incident. So the thing is that our priorities are misplaced. Digital Pakistan is a far-fetched dream that can never be realized unless you know things change, which to be very honest, things aren't changing. And like you said, hum log pichle dafa we were talking about all good things about how sab acha ho raha hai, and it looks like PTI tabdili aa gayi hai, and we're back. And Wazir Azam Monday को जो है वो करेंगे, महंगाई को चेक करेंगे, लेकिन उन्होंने ये नहीं बताया कौन सा मंडे है, और उनको अब क्यों ख्याल आ रहा है कि महंगाई ज्यादा हो गई, आटे की बोरी बढ़े हुए एक हफ्ता हो गया तो उनको अब क्यों याद आ रहा है.
And I think, like, again, like that's a good segue into our point around inflation, which first I want to get a sense from you कि हो क्यों रही है इतनी महंगाई, और दूसरा ये कि पहली दफ़ा तो नोटिस नहीं लिया है, नोटिस तो शुगर चीनी के ऊपर भी लिया था, और चीनी की जो कीमतें हैं वो सितंबर
माफिया.
2018 से लेके आज के सितंबर तक का जो लेटेस्ट डेटा है वो तकरीबन 75% इंक्रीज हुई हैं. तो मुझे लगता है नोटिस ना ही लें तो बेहतर है, क्योंकि नोटिस
नहीं,
जब लेते
आप
हैं तो और
आप
बढ़ जाती हैं.
गलत आप गलत समझ रहे हैं. हमारे हैंडसम वजीर आजम चाहते हैं कि इस मुल्क में पीपल रिड्यूस देयर शुगर इनटेक.
डायबिटीज़ ना हो.
जी, हमारे अच्छा just fun fact, the proportion of people with diabetes in Pakistan is one of the highest in the world.
Yeah.
तो वजीर आजम चाह रहे हैं कि डायबिटीज जिसको है उसकी और ना बढ़े, और जैसे लोगों को जिसको नहीं है उनको ना हो. So that's one reason why sugar prices are skyrocketing. But as far as ये आप सही कह रहे हैं कि जब वो नोटिस लेते हैं उसके बाद ही और दवाई आती, तो उससे बेहतर वो ना ही नोटिस लें.
On a serious note though, like what is going on? Like I know tomatoes are
It's
super expensive again. Like what is up with Pakistan's food supply
it's
chain?
very
Ke
it's very easy to twist the government's arm. आप बोलो, आप medicine वाले, आप बोलो कि we want to rationalize prices, we want to increase prices so that there isn't a shortage. वजीर आजम साहब और उनके कैबिनेट बोलेगा हाँ ठीक है, you can rationalize them as long as there's not a shortage, आपने price बढ़ा दी. So it's very easy. You can twist their arm, you can create a shortage and go like, देखिए, if you don't do this, you're failing. Prices increase. You don't, oh shit, we've got another shortage. What are we supposed to do? You've got to increase the prices, otherwise we're going to have another shortage again. You increase the prices. We start with petrol, we've got the medicine, it's everywhere. It's a very common thing. सब बोल रहे हैं price बढ़ाना है. Government मान जाती है सबकी बातें.
But those
क्योंकि
are
government को
regulated sectors,
shortage,
right?
it's about the fact it's about the fact that the government is not showing a spine against these people. You're supposed to crack down. When someone's creating a shortage, you're not supposed to bow down and say, oh, how can we make this better for you? You're supposed to say, oh, you're the one that is creating a shortage. Let me put you in place.
Hmm.
You know,
But do you think,
Iran.
like, from an agricultural policy perspective, like, I mean, I agree on the short term notion of crackdowns, but the flip side of the argument will be that, look, there are disruptions in supply. Tomato crop was not as much as it should be. So now tomatoes
Hmm.
are 150 plus rupees. Like, shouldn't there be a serious conversation in
The
Pakistan around
point
like
is,
modernizing the food supply chain?
the point is that अगर आप बोलो कि tomato crop down है, you can't say the same for every crop there is. And if prices are rising across the board, I'm not going to say, oh, he was right. I'm going to realize that, there is something wrong. सिर्फ हमारे ही मुल्क में ये मसला क्यों है? So then you're right. You're going to look at the supply chain as well, and you're also going to look at the fact that is there meddling in the process? So are people playing games here? Are people costing other people their livelihoods? What's happening? And you're also going to look at are we doing things right? And you're going to look at people that you are most like. So you're not going to take the US as a comparison to Pakistan and their agriculture policies. You're going to take an equally corrupt nation and you're going to use them as your benchmark. So you're going
Well,
to see
there's India
Iran and
across the border.
yeah, you can acha burai ke waqt jo hai na, when we're better than India, we go like, you know what, we're better than India. But like achai ke waqt, we don't compare ourselves to India. If you cross the border towards Iran, if you look at Iran, Iran has had a petroleum crisis and a petroleum smuggling issue since a very long time, and that's because the government has never really tackled the problem in a serious way. It should have, and that is precisely what Pakistan is actually doing itself. Ek time ke baad, we're also going to be smuggling stuff here and there, और यहाँ के लोग भूखे मर रहे होंगे. So it's actually we don't compare ourselves to the right people. हम Malaysia की बार बार example ले लेते हैं, हम इसकी example हम इसकी ले लेते हैं. We're completely different countries. We're completely different, and the notion of one size fits all does not work in Pakistan.
Yeah,
And
I
as
agree.
far as agriculture is concerned, जब तक आपके वडेरे और state और ये सब agricultural chain को संभाल रहे होंगे, तब तक ये मसला रहेगा. Unless there isn't proper land redistribution, these problems will remain because these people are linked to the parties. Think about it this way: Imran Khan, let's say Imran Khan's government is trying to improve the supply chain. ठीक है? जो जो ये farmers होते हैं, जिनकी जमीन है, they're all political people. सही है? अब what they're creating a shortage, they're earning, and at the same time they're reducing Imran Khan's popularity. Similarly, Imran Khan के खुद के लोग फायदा उठा रहे हैं इस सब चीजों से. So again, you are only as good as your cabinet unless you don't have a nice cabinet. Of Khusro Bakhtiar को बिठाए हुए आप cabinet में और उन्हीं के ऊपर cases हैं, तो फिर अब आगे इस पे क्या बात हो सकती है?
Yeah, and speaking of cabinet ministers, we have a rock star in the cabinet by the name of Umar Ayub Khan, who blames past governments for their poor policy choices while being a part of all those past governments as well.
How
And
long has
he's
it
still
been since the
energy
election?
minister.
How long has it been since the election? It's been a year and August में हुई थी. August में ही पूरा हुआ था.
2018.
हाँ,
It's been
it's been two
two
years
something years.
and 2 years and 2 months ऐसा ही कुछ हुआ होगा. It's been 2 years and a month and a half ऐसा ही कुछ हुआ है. बस कर दो यार. That's kind of what it's like now. At this point, it's like वो जो toxic boys होते हैं ना कि oh I'm this way because my ex was very bad to me. Get over it. Get over it. Because
Well,
it's
here's
gonna
the thing though, like we were promised, and I actually like lauded Khan's position on the fact that
90 days में
will
corruption खत्म.
change. And the fact that there will be merit, right? So I'm like, okay, you appoint a minister, the minister does a shoddy job. I would expect the prime minister, because he's a different type of person, he's talked about changing his team when Asad Umar was removed as finance minister
Yeah.
because they're not performing. So I'm like, why is Umar Ayub sitting pretty in his position when he's about to oversee a third consecutive gas crisis under his watch? Right, and it's just it does not make any sense to me. Like, why is
All
there
I
a gas
know,
shortage? It's a commodity that should be there, like
all
any other
all I
commodity.
know is that Imran Khan जब शुरू में आया था तो he said कि वो हर थोड़े दिन पे he's going to review his cabinet performance. All right, and जब वो उमर अयूब को review करते हैं तो वो क्या देखते हैं? Or I
Right.
want Umar Ayub to please tell me so that when I have exams or something, I could use Umar Ayub magic.
Well, I
I'll
mean,
get a nice
I'll sort of try to explain what I think is going on and tell me if you think I am on or off
sure.
point. When the government came in, this was my position, was that Imran Khan by parliamentary votes was the weakest
Yeah.
prime minister since Mustafa or since Jamali. back in
Yeah,
2002, if I remember correctly. And so when you have a 4 or 5 vote majority in parliament, and you are beholden to the folks that came into your party from others, such as Khusro Bakhtiar, Omar Ayub, and others,
yeah.
you really can't do much about removing or replacing them, because if you do, you lose parliamentary strength, and the
You're
opposition
scratching
already.
their back and they're scratching yours.
Yeah. So do you think that's a fair assessment of what's going on here? Like, it's
It
essentially
is.
about power, and that you lose power if you do something about these people.
I kind of feel Imran Khan's major position in the government is kind of just, to improve the international image and to speak about the Kashmir cause as much as he can. I guess that's his position. Otherwise, I don't think he really, you know, has much of a say in matters other than that. But he can get offended over it, he can say stuff, but at the end of the day, people like Mr. Bakhtiar, Omar Ayub, they do what they want.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that
So
they're back, but like at the end of the day, चाहे आप हो, चाहे मैं हूँ, चाहे you get any anti Imran Khan person to sit here, no one is going to say that he himself is corrupt or he himself is a bad guy. I'm yet to find someone that says that, but that doesn't really matter when people are dying of hunger in a country where justice is not served. That's my concern.
So, what do you think about the outlook? Like, what are you hearing sitting in Karachi, talking to the business community? Like, what's the outlook? Is there a feel good factor? Because I read a business
अच्छा,
recorder report this week that said there's a feel good factor. Is there really a feel good factor?
मजे की बात है business community is really optimistic.
Hmm.
Like recently, I've interviewed a few people. August Sales ka jo IPO ho raha tha, I even interviewed them and a few other people as well. And everyone you talk to, they're all like, चीजें बेहतर हो रही हैं. What they feel is the worst is over and चीजें बेहतर हो रही हैं. But then again, these are the people जिनको आटे महंगा होने से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. These are the people जिनको पता है कि when they are in trouble, the government will give them a stimulus package. So if you talk about people in the steel sector, you talk about people in the cement sector, they know कि जहाँ इनका बुरा हाल होगा इमरान खान ने तो stimulus announce कर देना है. And the business community is kind of looking, मतलब things have stabled to an extent. मतलब बुराई has stable to an extent. अब बुराई में सिर्फ अब ये महंगाई shortage रह गई है. उससे बचता क्या है? But the point is, the business community is surprisingly happy. And as far as consumer confidence is concerned, if you look at the Gallup and Dun& Bradstreet survey, people right now, they're not really happy. But moving forward 6 months, they think that things are going to get better. So we as a nation are really optimistic. हम हर चीज में अच्छाई ढूंढने की कोशिश कर ही लेते हैं बुराई ढूंढने के बाद. But you know, to answer your question, they're actually hopeful, and
And
I
what
hope
are they hopeful about? Like, what's the
stability.
why they're okay?
Stability.
Interesting.
They're hopeful that the interest rates will not rise, you know, excessively. They're hopeful that the government is providing support, because the fact is that the government could provide support during Corona and the Corona crisis, and so then one thinks that if the government could get through that, it could get through anything. And again, I like the fact that as long as the business community is optimistic, it's good. And maybe that has something to do with the fact that there has been regular engagement with the business community.
Hmm.
Layoffs have been paused for a while. जो corona crisis में layoffs हो रहे थे. Recently, you don't hear of them. जिनके pay cuts हो रहे थे, they are now back. They're now being restored. Things are improving on the business side. The dollar, the rupee it hasn't been declining further. It's improved. So देखा जाए, to be very honest, if Imran Khan miraculously fixes the shortage and the inflation issue, then he has the business community on his side already. Then he has people like you and me, or aam log, on his side as well.
Yeah, I have maintained that inflation and what's coming up in the winter months with gas shortages is the biggest issue,
You know,
given the opposition is about to come on the streets. That is the biggest issue they
Acha, what
can
do you think
grasp
about
on.
that?
Yeah, I mean,
I think कि इन लोगों ने फजलू को आगे किया और ये लोग सब खुद पीछे हो जाएंगे थोड़े टाइम के बाद.
I think that's what the strategy is. I think the strategy, if I was
It's
to
very easy for
game,
Fazlu to bring his, madrasa ke bacche on the street.
yeah, I think the strategy is that Maulana Saab will up the ante
I
and
call
he
him
can do that.
Fazlu.
Yeah, it's okay. Fazlu Saab, Maulana, I call him Maulana Saab, but in any case, he will
साहब
up the
बोलते हुए बुरा लगता है उनको.
हाँ और वो जो हैं आई थिंक
Okay,
दोनों पार्टीज ने उनको आगे किया है and I
yeah,
think the game will be this if I am gaming this out and we can see if I'm right or wrong, probably
yeah,
will be wrong and you can't predict Pakistani politics,
you can, you
but
can.
with the March Senate elections, the People's Party and the PMLN will have backroom dealings to figure out how they maintain a sphere of influence within parliament and maybe
Yeah.
some cases get punted down the road or something happens. But I think the main negotiation will be on the Senate, and they will use this protest to get some guarantees on those elections. And again, note, remember that the Senate elections
And
are not
मौलाना साहब
transparent.
अकेले रहेंगे फिर end में.
And Maulana Saab will go back to his madrasas and enjoy the northern
हलवा
area.
खाएंगे.
Exactly. So
Did
I
you
think
see his
that's what's gonna happen.
Instagram pictures?
Yeah, he was having fun.
I didn't expect him to do that. I never expected him to post on Instagram like पहाड़ों पे बैठ के.
Yeah, you know, but
I think he got jealous of Imran Khan ki pictures.
I guess so. I mean, he had a.
I
It
I
seemed like had
never
had a good
thought
time.
I never thought that years from now, when my kids are going to study Pak studies, and when they study 2020, they're going. You hear my mom?
Yeah.
You can.
No, barely, but it's
Okay,
fine.
okay. Sorry, she's talking to women. Anyway, what I'm saying is, I never thought that my kids in the year 2020 would be reading Ke Maulana Saab is the image of resistance. He's the leader of the resistance. I would have never thought that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and that's the that's
And
Pakistan for you, I guess.
the craziest person I would have imagined leading the resistance would be Fazlu. Uske alawa, I can't even think of anyone who would like Bilawal leading would be absurd for me, but Fazlu is like just next level absurd.
But it is an interesting evolution, right? From an academic perspective, the man who allowed Musharraf to pass certain changes when he was in power, the MMA was his ally in
Yeah,
those constitutional changes, and he
yeah.
led the charge, has now done a 180-degree turn where he has become fully, openly, and blatantly anti-establishment. I think that is a very, very interesting from a political science and academic
But then
perspective.
if you look at it, the answer is very simple. You're pro establishment as long as it suits you. So
Of course.
think about it this way. If today establishment मुझे बोले कि मैं आपको वज़ीर आज़म बनाती हूँ, मैं ये नहीं कही कि वो बोलता है. I don't want you to get banned.
Yeah.
But let's say if they make me prime minister of Pakistan, I would love them. But if now they like you instead of me, मैं तो थोड़ा चिढ़ूंगी ना उनसे.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. That's when the history is, indicative of this issue.
Think about Nawaz Sharif. Nawaz Sharif is literally a product of Ziaul Haq, all right? And Ziaul Haq is the worst person you want to be the product of. And now Nawaz Sharif is like anti-establishment. And if one more person comes up to me and says, "Oh, he's a changed person now. He's realized his mistake," then I'm gonna go like, "ठीक है, आज establishment Wazir Azam बनाए is Nawaz Sharif willing to become prime minister? Is Nawaz Sharif willing to join hands with him?" And you know the answer. I know the answer. We all know the answer. And I'd like to point out the fact that Nawaz Sharif का ये हाल अगर किसी ने किया है ना तो establishment ने नहीं किया. नवाज शरीफ का ये हाल अगर किसी ने किया है तो मरियम नवाज ने किया है. And not
No, I
even
mean,
Shehbaz, बेचारा.
yeah, and the People's Party is stuck in the middle because they have a government and they're like, जरा कराची पैकेज आने वाला है, थोड़ा काम और कर लेते हैं अपना, और
क्या
वो
करेंगे
फंस
वो?
गए बीच में कि क्या करें अब. I think
कराची
they will
पैकेज
be the
का
first
क्या
to break
करेंगे?
ranks in this
You're
opposition
from
alliance.
Karachi, right?
Yes, grew up there.
Do you think that it's gonna make a difference?
No,
Any
I
package?
mean, okay, look, dispassionate, unemotional analysis of the Karachi package is that the announcement was almost equal to the entire coronavirus package
Yes.
released for the entire country. Number one. Number two, Imran Ismail Saab yesterday said in a statement that the Bundal Island project will lead to 50 billion, 50 billion in FDI investment in Pakistan. And I was like, the total stock in 70 something years of Pakistan's existence of FDI in the country is about $35 billion. तो आई वाज लाइक कि भाईजान कैसे मतलब रोड मैप
तो
दिखा दें हम भी जरा
आपने सुना नहीं था कि जब इमरान खान की हुकूमत बनने वाली थी तो मुराद सईद ने बोला था, आई थिंक मुराद सईद वेरी टू पर्सन, मुराद सईद ने बोला था कि क्या कहते हैं पैसे आएंगे मुल्क में, इमरान खान लाएंगे, वो नहीं आए ना अभी तक.
yeah and I mean I think like
And
look
it's
like
very easy to
here's
throw. You know what I think? This government and every government is run by WhatsApp uncles who make up numbers. So if I'm not eating food, if I'm not eating sabzi, my mom says you get 70% nutrients from this food. My mom makes up a random number to make me eat food. Similarly, Imran Saab ne yahi kiya.
I agree and I mean that's the sad part, right? I mean
I
the
find that the only person that brings out numbers is Jagra. I don't know how if I pronounce his name correctly.
Yeah, he's a McKinsey guy, so it kind of makes sense that he likes to
Yeah,
have
but
nice
he
charts and
brings
stuff.
numbers and he brings the right numbers and he doesn't give inflated numbers. I mean, 50 million FPI?
Billion million
Oh,
नहीं
sorry. मेरे 10 बिलियन
5,000 million
नहीं तो 10
5,000
बिलियन
नहीं
मुझे
50,000 million.
लोग 10 बिलियन मांग लेते हैं, आप इसके बोल रहे हैं.
So I mean, again, like the policy. I mean, you're right. Like, but again, one has to question like what's driving these policy decisions. I mean, ignore the number,
So the
but
idea
from
about the Bundle Island is absolutely crazy.
भाई अरेबियन
It's
सी के अंदर है, वहाँ सैलाब आने वाले हैं, दुनिया के आइलैंड्स आर गोइंग अंडर वाटर. लोग कह रहे हैं
हम
कि हायर
island
ग्राउंड पे
बनाएंगे.
शिफ्ट करो लोगों को. हम आइलैंड डेवलप करने लग गए हैं जहाँ वैसे ही पैसे नहीं है मुल्क में और आप आइलैंड
You do
डेवलप
know
नहीं.
land reclamation वो Indus Delta में नहीं उड़ेगा. मतलब you're right, पानी आ रहा है ऊपर.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's one of those weird things where it's
And
like
you're ruining your ecosystem completely.
yeah. So you're right. I mean, it again, it's for me, the concerning part isn't that the number is inflated or the policy does not make sense. It's that there is no connection to reality of the country in terms of what the priorities should be, right? In terms of reforms, in terms of changing
पहले
things, and
priority थी NAB था और making sweeping statements. अब priority है making sweeping statements.
yeah. So, anyways, where do you see this going? Like, what's coming up towards the end of the year? We were blatantly wrong about our last optimistic take on the economy. I guess this one is sort of the balancing act of the pessimistic take. So,
मैं वाकई में I'm knocking wood.
hmm.
नजर नहीं लगाना, ठीक है. अब मैं ये कह
नहीं
रही हूँ
अब तो
कि
नजर लगानी चाहिए ना. पेसिमिस्टिक को तो नजर लग जाए तो अच्छी बात है.
नहीं, अब मैं लोगों के ऑप्टिमिज्म को नजर नहीं लगा रही. I feel
Okay.
that as long as the business community is optimistic, you can see some positive changes. So if they're optimistic, it's going to bring in investment. You look at Bikea right now. Bikea brought in money from international investors during a pandemic. It wasn't a lot of money, but Bikea itself is a very, stringent company with regards to money, and it can make very big differences. Naspers wasn't willing to invest in Pakistan before, and because they call it volatile, but they found the business environment good enough, or maybe bikes are good enough to invest right now. So my point is that as long as the business community has, confidence in Pakistan, you can assume things might get better, not because of the government, because the optimism has a multiplier effect. So if businessmen think, oh, अच्छा होने वाला है, they might go forward with the investments that they have in mind, employment, growth, revenues, blah, 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 simple. But that I feel is something that the government has worked on, or maybe it happened on its own, because in the past, like when the PTI government came up, any businessman you would talk to, regardless of the fact if he was a PTI supporter or not, was very disappointed and did not have any optimism. So I feel that the optimism may come into play. And if it doesn't, then we're screwed. Because that's the only thing that is like, hope for us right now.
And I mean, the business optimism is a very fickle thing, right? So, I
It
mean, I
is. It
remember
is the
when the
question.
textile package came out, APMA was like Zabardast, Zabardast, और 4 महीने बाद they are like कि ये हुकूमत जो है वो support नहीं कर रही
ये
sector
बिक
को,
गई है हुकूमत.
government बिक गई है. तो I
नहीं,
mean,
आपने मेरा
but you're
वॉइस नोट
right.
सुना था ना?
हाँ, तो बिक गई है government और you know, it's like it is a fickle thing, and I think I will say that the risk to that optimism is the fact that Pakistan has to renegotiate and re-enter the IMF program, and those negotiations are ongoing right now. So
Yeah,
tariffs are about to go up, gas shortages are already on the horizon, and so they will have to make certain tough choices that may take off the business community that is riding a feel-good factor right now, as they say.
yeah, yeah, you're right. But जहाँ तक उनको अच्छा लग रहा है, उनको अच्छा लग.
So prediction, October protests coming up. How do you see them playing out in Punjab?
कुछ ना, ये ढीठ की तरह ये बैठे रहेंगे, वो ढीठ की तरह बैठे रहेंगे, सब पीछे कंटेनर के पीछे बातें हम मनवाएंगे and all good to go.
Okay. And what's
Nothing.
the
It's not going to make a difference. The हुकूमत कहीं नहीं जाने वाली. Opposition जो है कुछ नहीं करने वाला, उनको कुछ नहीं मिलने वाला, हुकूमत कुछ नहीं करने वाला. It's just going to continue for a
status
while.
quo? Okay. So
Yeah.
and on the X Factor
Inflation.
event, any X Factor event that you think can sort of change the dynamics next time we speak?
अगर नवाज शरीफ साहब खुद पाकिस्तान आ जाए.
Hmm. Interesting.
That is the only thing. That is the only wild card entry we have in our politics now. अगर नवाज शरीफ साहब या अल्ताफ अल्ताफ भाई आ जाए.
Yeah, I think Altaf Hussain, though, I mean,
See, that's
that's a
completely out of
different
the
topic
question. That's
altogether.
that's
As
completely out of the question. But like, he's not coming back. And Nawaz Sharif is not coming back. Nawaz Sharif is not coming back. Not this year, not next year. Nawaz Sharif is not coming back.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
speaking of Altaf Hussain, as someone who grew up in Karachi, like what a transformation, huh? From a party that used to shut everything down within 2 minutes. And this is
Second,
pre-viral social media time. So imagine the amount of organization
karo.
it took
They just go like band karo or
to
sab
what
band.
it is
No
now. I
one would
mean,
even.
I'm
No one cares. No one cares. Now if you go like, अरे मेरे ये जानने वाले हैं unit में, तो people are gonna go like,
Kaun sa unit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Okay, so
now
Nawaz
people
Sharif
go,
returning is the wild card, but you don't think it's going
yeah.
to happen.
No, I don't think. अगर वो वापस आएगा ना, I will change my Twitter DP to his picture for 2 weeks.
And finally, does inflation play a role in these protests or in making Khan's
Okay,
government
so
super
to be
unpopular?
very honest, to be very honest, the opposition does not give a flying care about um, inflation. They don't care about anyone's struggle. वो सिर्फ protest पे आ रहे हैं because they want to be in government.
No, I
That's it.
agree. That's the opposition leadership perspective, right? But I'm saying, will they be able to use
Yeah,
inflation
like
to channel people's frustration?
if you ask people that are adamant PPP, PTI, PPP, and PMLN supporters, they bring up inflation, and it is a really big cause of resentment. But जिनको inflation से ज़्यादा मसला हो रहा है, उनके पास इतने resources नहीं है कि वो अपना सारा काम छोड़ के protest में जाए.
That's a good point. Okay,
Unless
well,
you pay them with biryani.
या वो बिरयानी मुर्गी वैसे ही महंगी हो गई है चावल सस्ते हैं चावल महंगे नहीं हुए वैसे लाइक लुक दैट्स माय आर्गुमेंट आई यूज फॉर पीपल हु आर लाइक गवर्नमेंट को कुछ करना चाहिए हम लाइक जब गवर्नमेंट कुछ करती नहीं है तब सब सही चलता है चावल इज नॉट रेगुलेटेड इन पाकिस्तान और देखो चावल की प्राइसेस जो हैं वो इतनी ज्यादा नहीं
You
पड़ी
you can export it, you can sell it here. The prices are dependent on the
द
quality.
मार्केट वर्क्स राइट
Market
एंड यू
works.
गेट
The
इट
market
या
works. It's demand supply. Like कभी बोरी कभी कम की आती कभी ज्यादा की आती है.
लेकिन इतना ज्यादा नहीं होता प्रेडिक्टेबल रहता है इट्स लिंक्ड टू
It's
कोर इन्फ्लेशन राइट
every
ऑयल महंगा
year,
हो गया या बिजली महंगी हो गई चावल भी थोड़े
every
महंगे हो
year,
गए
every year, unless we change the quality of rice we buy, I think per kg उसका फर्क 10 रुपए या उससे कम ही आ रहा होता है. Unless you
या
change the quality. और वो जो बिरयानी वाला स्पेशल वाला चावल होता है उसके ऊपर तो फर्क आता ही नहीं है. Fun story, very fun story. In 2014, my mom once sent me grocery shopping and said, Ariba, buy good rice. Because she was sick and I was the adult at home. Very wrong of her to assume. I went to buy rice and I asked the dukan wala, सबसे महंगा चावल कौन सा है? It was 200 rupees.
अंकल ने बोला आज तो लॉटरी लगने वाली है.
He's like, ये 200 रुपए का फलक का चावल है, export quality. I was like, ये आता होगा घर में. So I brought it home. A few days ago, I went back there and I was like, सबसे अच्छा कौन सा है? It was the same. And when I brought it back home, my mom was like, beta, we don't eat this one every day. We eat this like biryani, pulao वगैरह.
हाँ,
It's
वो
very
सेला राइस
long.
होगा, सेला चावल होगा.
Yeah, it was a very special rice. It was very Dawat rice. So my mom never sent me grocery shopping alone
Well, I mean,
again.
I kind of blame her in the fact that, like, what is good rice? Like, I would be like, okay,
I-
can you define
she said
characteristics? Do I
she
measure
said
the
she said
grain?
she said अच्छा चावल लेके आना तो मैं दुकान में जाके सबसे अच्छा चावल
Mahanga.
because I
Price is
didn't
an
want to
indicator of quality.
because I didn't want to disappoint my mom with bad rice.
Yeah, and you did what any rational
Uh,
economic
Rational
student would do,
18-year
right?
old kid would do.
Rational agent in economics would do, right? Price is an indicator of quality. I go in, I ask for the most expensive things of this commodity because I would assume that this is the
And
best.
हमारे यहाँ हर रोज चावल बनता है ना तो it's like the special वाला is special and आम वाला is normal वाला not the बुरा वाला it's normal good वाला but that I bought the best वाला so my mom said bring better not best
Best,
so
yeah.
but my point is that वो वाले चावल अभी तक उतने ही है 210 का हो गया इससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा the महंगा मतलब ये 2014 के बाद अभी से उसमें 210 मतलब the premium price product hasn't really increased the lower grades have increased so
Yeah.
it's very
And we
minimal right it's
export,
minimal
Pakistan exports it. It is a big revenue generator. It
हम
is
लोग
there
हम लोग
despite
salt
climate
export
change.
करने लग गए pink salt export
I
करने लग
saw
गए
that the other day, by the way. I got my friend had brought Trader
yeah
Joe's pink salt. It was packaged in the United States, but it came from Pakistan. That's what the label said.
imagine if it was packaged in Pakistan
Yeah, we don't have that capability yet. Although I think people are investing in it, but it's not there yet. But yeah, it was sent in bulk to Pakistan from Pakistan to the
but
US, and
finally पहले ये होता था कि we'd send it to India and then India would sell it to the USA
yeah.
and you lose out on margins through that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think again, those are the things that we should be focused on is like how do we add value in areas where there is an advantage, and hopefully
चाहे
away
वो
from
छोटी
textiles.
चाहे वो छोटी चीजें हो
Yeah, there's a lot of
like as
potential, and
small
these
as
things
salt
employ a lot of people. Yeah,
like if as small as salt almonds peanuts things like that
spices, red chili powder,
spices
like it's a growing thing. Like
red
paprika and
yeah
cayenne pepper is growing. Like Sindh has a huge production capability for
basil
spices.
basil seeds
Yeah, I mean chia seeds. वो
no no
किसी
no
ने
no no
लिखा
no
था
no
कि
no 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 chia seeds are completely different chia seeds are not grown in Pakistan basil seeds tuk malanga are basil seeds those are grown
they're
in
not the
Pakistan
same. I thought they were the
no no no
same.
I'll show you a tweet I made
Okay.
a tweet about it they're different so basil
Okay.
seeds के जो drinks बन रहे होते हैं we could start making our own basil seed drinks
Yeah.
and sell it to the white people
Mangoes. We produce so much mangoes. Like forget about fresh mangoes. Do value addition. Make mango ice cream. Make mango jelly. Make mango
mango
jerky.
puree
Yeah, you get so here in the US, like one of the most delicious snacks I love. I don't eat it all the time because it's terrible for you. Are dried mango, whatever pieces. They come from
really
the Philippines. They are delicious. Like dried mango is super sweet, and it's like
ये
almost like
उधर देखें
jerky.
आप जरा स्क्रीन आप स्क्रीन पे देखें उधर उसकी तस्वीर लगा
मैं तस्वीर लगा दूंगा इसकी. But it is delicious and it comes from the Philippines, and they basically what they've done is they have a great mango production capability, but they not only just sell fresh mangoes to the rest of the world, they value added on it and started making different things.
you can make
Um,
mango mousse like I made like you can make so many things out of mangoes and we don't make any we can make skincare products out of
और
mango
फिर उसको TikTok पे प्रमोट करेंगे
TikTok पे कैसे करेंगे
VPN
I don't
करके.
know हाँ नहीं I was thinking of something like a TikTok ad
Oh no, you could have influencers, the chefs and the cooks trying to drum it up.
influencers
You get the influencers in and like get the diaspora part of this and drop ship it to people in different parts of the world. But again, those are interesting
white
things.
people
But
trying Pakistani snacks
exactly, make that, get Mango
BuzzFeed
Bars to make a, or BuzzFeed
BuzzFeed
Mango Bars BuzzFeed co-production.
yeah
There you go.
yeah
But it was great having you on. Great conversation as always. It was more
If
of a
anyone
venting
listens to this,
session.
I'm judging them.
Yeah, if they're like, oh, do more of this, I'd be like, I think I'll maybe once a month is good and ज़्यादा हो जाएगा. If
मतलब
they're like, this is
मतलब
a good change of scene for me, because also I get a bit like, it gets a bit repetitive if you're just interviewing people all the time. So I appreciate these
if
conversations.
anyone is still watching this, you really need a like.
Yeah.
No, but good you're watching it because they're like viewers, but like
Or you're
I'm
listening on,
judging
if
you.
you're listening it on a podcast, I think then, yeah, you're probably stuck in
No, if
traffic
you're
somewhere.
listening on a podcast, it's okay because if you're watching this, I'm
Yeah.
judging you.
We'll see how many viewers we get. But Ariba, thank you for your time. This was wonderful, and stay safe, stay sane. Buy rice, not wheat or sugar, because
I'm not
Monday,
buying anything.
Monday goes
I'm
khareed
not
lena.
allowed. I am not allowed.
You tell your mom to buy on Monday because prices will go down then.
नहीं ना वो सुबह नोटिस लेंगे फिर सोचेंगे.
So, okay. Bye bye.
Yeah. Okay, bye bye.